Hello, everybody. It is Sunday night, 6 o'clock, and the Chiefs just won. I'm really actually saying that for my assistant, Angela, who is a huge Browns fan. And my son and husband today were at the Kansas City game because he is touring the college at Lawrence, Kansas, and they were able to get some tickets to the game. So they had a very, very fun game to watch. And I'm so sorry, Angela, that your Browns lost. But thanks for joining Dr. Boz here tonight at the Sunday Night Lives. I have a really good show for you tonight, and I have some announcements that I'm excited to share with you. The play for the night is going to be very similar. I'm going to check my numbers here while we're talking. I've got my fork here punching into the system. These are the exact same meter. I just use different colors to check different ones so I can do it a little faster on the show. Thanks for the sound check, everybody. I appreciate that. And then I am going to go through a couple of updates of what's happened in the past week. That'll take just a few minutes. I have a little bit of goating that I'm going to do, and I warned Dr. Barry that this was happening, so I'm not sure if he'll tune into the live or not, but and then I have a lesson for the night, and I'm hoping to be taking your questions by about the 40-minute mark. So the last 20 minutes of the live should be live questions and answers. I am just checking my numbers here, and we're going to start with the purple one is the ketone, and then the white one is the glucose. Checking them at the onset of the show and counting down. So ketones 0.3, I could have told you that. Glucose 110. I ate about an hour and a half ago. So usually we have a family board game we play every Sunday, which is usually done by about 11:30, and I fast from that point forward. But today it was just my little guy and I. So we played a couple of hands of cribbage, and I won the first one. He won the second one. But then I had food closer to the show tonight than I usually do. So I am still going to use my BHB. I mixed it up before the show tonight, just trying to get things a little speedier. So again, I'll show you what these numbers look like at the end. The reason I do that isn't because I like poking my finger any more than the rest of you. It is because I am very encouraged when you can see the results of products that you pay a lot of money for and how they work. So I always think it's a little bit moment of anxiety to say, yep, it still works. It's like live product testing in front of you. All right, so let's get started with a couple of updates for the past week. First and foremost, maybe it's just first and foremost because it's super exciting to me. We relaunched the online course, Consistently Keto, for a new batch of students that are running through the best online course that is out there. You can expect that the last time I did this actually was about 8 months ago. I launched a course, and then at the end of every one of the modules, which there's 4 modules and then a bonus video. But at every one of the modules, I take time to answer questions live to that student group to hopefully shoot any cleanup that they didn't understand in the information, as well as launch people to the next module. So as students now some of them have taken the whole course a couple of times. What I'm very excited is many people use the course as their curriculum for their small group or their keto support group. And the level of questions this time I expect to be even more, more thoughtful and meaningful. But we'll be taking on your questions each Friday for all the students that are in the course. As of Friday night, we did close the course. That's the sale price. If you do purchase the course now, you can still get into the course. It's just a little more money than it was last week. But at the end of that launch came this super important moment, and I don't even have a copy of the book with me because I haven't actually touched it. This is what happens when you are an independent author, is that my book launched. The book I've been writing for 2.5 years finally launched, and I am going to show that to you. Here's Amazon. I shared this a little bit last week that on Amazon, you type in the word keto continuum, and that's what the book looks like. Last week, you could only see the Kindle because they don't let you pre-order the paperbacks. And even though I ordered some author copies of the paperback, they are still not here. So I hope to get my first copy of it as well. But the paperback and the Kindle are on sale on Amazon. And I just want to point out that this will be more relevant in a moment, but there's no reviews on it. I mean, it's been out like for 36 hours, maybe 48 hours. But I was going to also show, somebody actually wrote in saying this was quite helpful when they saw this the first time I did it. So here's just a bookstore site. I happen to choose Barnes & Noble because most people know of that bookstore. But if you go into the bookstore site and you type in Keto Continuum and push return, you will find this book at your local. You can order it and it will either be shipped to your local bookstore or directly to you. So I have lots of people say, I don't have an account on Amazon. I thought everybody had an account on Amazon, but the reviews on here are 0 as well. Because again, it just launched, it just released on Friday. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited for anybody in the world can get the book. It's actually a worldwide market that isn't just Amazon, but also somebody actually commented in the comments that says, I've left a review on Amazon. Apparently there's a cache, because I had a few of you in the neurons group saying that you left a review, and I was anxiously awaiting and gonna go watch or gonna go read the reviews. But they don't, it takes about 48 hours for those reviews to post. So I'm looking forward to reading them. And we'll give you just a little update that the workbook that's associated with this, as well as the audiobook, are coming. The audiobook had one error that we got warning of on launch day. This was sad but true, that apparently there was an extra sound after I announced the title. So I did narrate the book. It is complete. It has been uploaded. It has been shuffled and organized and coordinated. And there is a PDF that comes with this time. Last time when I did the audiobook, I didn't know you could do that. I have since submitted a PDF for any way you can, but we'll also have a PDF with Keto Continuum, which has the charts and several of the drawings that came in the book. So the audiobook is coming. The workbook is in the design team, and I wish I could make it be done, but it's not. The information is there, but getting the book to flow and to fit right isn't. So I hope to tell you about that next week and say a prayer that I am patient. So I do want to put out a little goading for Dr. Ken Berry. So there is, I think there's an unspoken rule in medical school that if you're not competitive, you shouldn't apply. It is a very competitive sport to be in medical school, to be a physician. But there were 2 really good books that came out about the same time, that 2017, 2018, where if you were in primary care and you were tired of writing prescriptions and you were curious on how else could you possibly help patients, there were a few of us outliers who said, there's got to be something better. And of course, the story Any Way You Can walks you through my first real keto, completely keto, consistently keto patient, which was my mother. And I am really thankful for every single one of these, which I have read all of the 239 reviews, because just like Dr. Berry, we're going to go to his book in a minute, when you look at how people find books on Amazon, they are first sorted by the number of reviews. So if you have no reviews like Keto Continuum does right now, the ability for other people to find it is nearly 0. But when you have 2 doctors who are outliers, and Dr. Berry and I are we're friends, and he's competitive as well. So do not be persuaded by his smile or his Southern accent like Matthew McConaughey. The fact that he has 2,800 reviews and I only have 23, just about 2,400 reviews is inappropriate. We have to fix that. If you have read Any Way You Can and you have not left me a review, I told Dr. Berry right before this started, saying, all right, I'm going to do this on my show unless you object. And the whole purpose is to say, I want more reviews than Dr. Berry. I am just a little bit competitive. So if you haven't left a review for Any Way You Can, because the author now has another book out, it strikingly improves an independent author. And although Dr. Barry does have a publishing team, the rules are the same for him. So if you've read his book, even if you just say great job, the review does count for stars, but a couple of words is a really great gift for this community of educating patients, doing it in a cost-effective way of read a book, listen to the book, gift the book. I do appreciate how much his education and his teaching style mesh with mine. So it's a great combination. So if you haven't left a book for me, a book review for Any Way You Can, though, you do that one first. So you can only leave reviews on Amazon if you've had the book and it's been delivered. So if you try to leave the review before you get the book, they'll reject it. If for any reason you appear to be related to me, my sister's tried to leave a review several times and they don't like that. She doesn't have the same name as me, but yep, that's true. All right, so I have a couple of other things. Tonight, I wanted you to notice that I put a poll out there before this show. I'm trying to do that before each show just to get a little bit of understanding of the audience relative to the topic that that's going to be talked about tonight. So here is, it's actually Jack's account. And I wanted to show you that if you go to the account, you can't find the poll. You actually have to click on the Dr. Boz channel. So we're going to do that. And once you're there, oops, I must have clicked on the wrong one here. Hold on. Oh, no, I did. Oh, it's actually live. That's why it is. Okay, so I need to go. Oh, hold on. See, it didn't do this when we were practicing before. Hold on. It'll I bet I can figure it out. So you have to go to the Dr. Boz channel. Oh, I bet you it's only that way before the live. So there's a way to push the community button.
So you go to the channel. Oops. Go to the channel.
Oh, there. Yeah, that button.
And then you
go to okay, so I did it wrong. So this is why I'm trying to teach you, because you have to go to the channel, and then this little word community is going to be where the poll is at. So I'm going to push community right now. And I told Jack he couldn't answer the poll because I was going to do it live. But the question tonight is about the topic we're going to talk about. And it says, do you have a keto support group? And so if you look, you can't really see the statistics of the community yet until you answer. So I'm going to say that Jack attends a members only weekly keto support group because he helps me set up the IT for that as well. And then you'll notice that only 4% of the people watching do that. Most of them clicked the no support button. I'm like, So that's what the topic is about tonight. We're going to get to that. And it really did heighten my my focus for somebody said, so who's Jack? Jack is my favorite person, especially on Sunday nights and especially on Friday mornings. I lead my keto support group on Friday mornings. And of course, I do this on Sunday nights. And after I had so many glitches, I said, Jack, you just need to come on Sunday nights with me so I don't screw any of this up. So you can say that the much decline in technical issues on this channel are thanks to Jack. So, all right, last thing on the announcements page is I wanted to go to the website. You'll see that Any Way You Can is still on sale on the website, but I do not have Keto Continuum on sale for the website, and it's very strategically important that I do want to rank on Amazon as it'd be wonderful to be a bestseller, but the only way you rank as a seller are sales through the sites where they keep score. If I would order books for Keto Continuum and sell them on my page, it wouldn't, I buy those books myself, so that's kind of like rigging the game apparently. So you can't use those in this, anybody who would buy them off the site, it would not count in a best sales algorithm. And really, I do know the power. After selling the first book that I learned a ton. I had a PhD in all things that can go wrong when you sell your own book. But a great appreciation for how valuable those reviews are and how hard it is to find a new book. Even if you have a unique name, I put Anyway spelled with one word in the first book in hopes to kind of get people to get to the book. Keto Continuum. It's the only keto continuum word out there. I was very careful when titling this book. But even with that, the way you find it is people leave reviews. So I don't have the book on sale for on my website. People have asked a lot about the stuff that's going on in the store. I do sell my products on Amazon, but I sell them at the store as well. There's a contract between whenever you do this you sell products on Amazon, that they have to be the same price. So that's why there's a bulk discount for a few products at bozmd.com, and they are the ones that I've been able to get an ample supply of. So the BHB sells out so quick that I don't have any bulk purchases yet. But if you buy 4 of the Max BHB capsules, 4 of the K2D3, or 4 of the C8C10 soft gels, you'll get a 25% discount for 4 or more of the same item on those products. But what I really wanted to show you is I have a show coming up, and I'm just going to show you here. I'm clicking on the Dr. Boz favorites here. So as I do that, these are products that I don't make. Some of them I make, but I don't make a lot of them. Oopsie daisy. Didn't want to do that. So you'll see the links of the products on Amazon if you prefer to buy them there. But these are products that I've done a bunch of shows on in the past. There's the Omega Quant test where you can check your cholesterol. The thermometer that I prefer, the salt sucking one, was a very entertaining, if nothing else. There's the meter that I promote because I do think it's the best meter out there. But what I want you to notice is this one right here is the vitamin D test at home. I pricked my finger last week, and I don't have my results back yet because the little card sat in my car for like 4 days before I put it in the mail. So, but I did do it right here on the show, and I'm going to do a show about this in about 3 or 4 weeks. And I would love it if you have your results back. It will make much more sense if you so if you click on that picture, and then I don't know if you saw that I put on there, Dr. Boz promo code is there. Not every product I have a promo code for, but if I have a promo code, I usually put it in that little picture. But this is the vitamin D test, and I want to point out that, the copay to come see a doctor to get the test ordered the traditional way is almost the same price as the whole stinking test through quant.com. So again, it's that Quant, Omega Quant is the organization that studies fat-based science in the blood, and they are very innovative in how they are using home kits so that you skip the physician. You test your own stuff, and you look at it every 3 to 6 months, see if your intervention made a difference. But I'm working on a show for vitamin D in a few weeks, and it would be awesome if you have your results back by then. I think it's a much more rich education if you've got that available. All right, so those announcements took a little bit more time than I thought. I do want to remind everybody that if you can give a thumbs up to our show, that really does help. I am terrible about asking for that, but I do appreciate that. So your keto continuum and support group questions are hopefully going to be what we answered in about 20 minutes, but we're going to spend the next about 20 minutes talking about the topic of tonight. Okay. So if I look at a couple of things, one of the purposes of writing Keto Continuum was to show you what I do in my clinic. I am first and foremost an educator, not just to patients as they come to see me as their physician, but I've been the educator for medical students. I take every opportunity to do an educational process on brain development, to everything from military to middle schools to jails to churches. I really do enjoy that. And as I look at how I have used the consistent delivery of ketones to help resurrect thousands of people's health, at least hundreds since I switched my clinic to keto focus clinic, the number of students that reached out asking questions how and why, and a little bit more understanding of how can you get the delivery of the reproducible keto chemistry that I was getting in my clinic. And that's where I wrote the protocol and put it into a story form, knowing that this is kind of some advanced science that we're teaching. And if you have a book about advanced science, about the 3rd chapter, you have a good sleeping book. To engage the brain in teaching by using stories is one way to ignite mirror neurons, even as you read. So tonight's topic is on a keto support group, because it truly is my original intention when I was beginning to write the book, was to write the book for providers, for other health keto coaches or nutritionists or physicians or nurses or nurse practitioner story. I realized, no, this could be anybody who wants to improve their children, and the 3rd grade teacher that wants their classroom to not be so wiggly. Teaching keto chemistry doesn't need to be so academic. You don't need to be a physician to understand this. So the protocol and process of how to do that is the real guts of what's going on in that book, Keto Continuum. But I think the most powerful section of, let's see here, the most powerful section about what big mistakes do I see people make when they are falling off keto. So they start keto for a little section of life, and then they're like, I don't know, I tried that, and then I couldn't. I did it for a couple weeks, and it was great, but then I fell off. I did it for 6 weeks, and I was fine, and then I just can't seem to get back on it. And I've covered this section in a previous video, is understanding your why and really unpacking the depth and power that if you're doing keto for the 4th time, I guarantee one of these 2 problems is happening. Either you don't have a good why, and I mean not just that you want your blood pressure medicines to be gone. Go back and watch that video if you don't understand what I'm talking about there. But the access to success for keto starts with the motivation to get through some of those tough things. But the second thing that's critical for changing human brains is, do you have a support group? Which is what led me to that poll this morning. That keto continuum is, yes, it's a process of how do you improve your health. It is a stepwise guide on here are the steps to do, and that's very nice and lovely until you realize you're dealing with humans here. And if you want human brains to learn something new, that begins with making sure that they have the right format for learning adult human behavior. And what I mean by that is, if you look at how we change behavior in adults, it is not something where, we do lots of things in society to try and change this. Like we arrest people when they do things that are inappropriate, and we, shame them with the word felony, and say you can't vote and you can't leave the country, and we fine them. When other behaviors that are not appropriate in adulthood start to impact others, they get put in jail, they get excommunicated from their family, their friendships go down, they lose a job. So the consequences of behaviors in adulthood that don't get corrected, they're everywhere. Learning to change the way you eat food is a behavior change that you may not appreciate, that it's rather addictive to have a life that is constantly fueled by carbohydrates. But I guarantee that if you have been on the ketogenic journey and then you fell off and then you tried to go back on and you're like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. That's a little glimpse about how difficult just the chemistry shift can be the 2nd or 3rd time, knowing that, yeah, you can shift the chemistry, but that's not really the hard part. That's the easy part. You'll feel good. It's what happens in the long game. And that long game is very valuable and important to teach how to do it differently. When I look at some of the best, I have this little picture over here of groups, because I think one of the places I honed the skill of not just teaching within a support group, but actually using the power of neuroscience in a support group has been through the work I've done in addiction and recovery. When patients are trying to not do the things that get them arrested and shamed and scolded with society, saying that behavior is just not appropriate in adulthood, they have to learn something they didn't learn in their formative years. So I tell a story usually when I'm running group and I've got people that are disgruntled. They're court ordered to be at group or they don't want to be there. And I'm trying to say, you should be attracted to being here. And they're like, yeah, tell that to, my ankle bracelet, So I'm trying to say that there's all kinds of things that you're going to learn in this group. And I tell a story about me that I come from a great family, mom and dad, farmers. I'm the oldest of three. And I learned what my family did as normal. And I'm from the Midwest. The the Midwest has a tradition of, a beer after work. That seemed normal to me. But your own inner family has other traditions that you just grow up with thinking that's normal. And then you get married. And that marriage brings in a family culture, even though his family was from the Midwest and his dad had a beer most nights after work as well. My did too. Lots of things. My parents were still married. His parents were still married. My parents went to church. His parents. So lots of family things that matched. So if you look at the world of psychology, those are supposed to be rather, I don't want to say easy marriages because I don't think any marriage is easy, but it's supposed to be a pretty good fit. Except until you realize that we're both firstborns and we're going to fight some things out. But I can remember that first year or two of marriage that I learned something I'd never seen before. And that is my husband's the firstborn of his siblings, and I'm the firstborn of mine. So that means we should never get married. Actually, you're going to fight a lot if you're in this marriage. But that intensity and that relationship had something that it can be very unsettling. My parents hated to see us together for the first couple of years because we fought so much. And I'm just like, oh, it's just foreplay. It's okay. But as we struggled through things, I can remember the first argument where I knew I was right. I knew I was right. And I was adamant that I was right. And in the midst of an argument, my husband said the words, "You're right. I'm wrong." And I can still get chills because I'm like, I don't have a move after that. I had never seen that. And my mother's a strong woman and my dad's a strong farmer. There was plenty of, assertive, aggressive conversations in my upbringing, but I had never seen that. I had no idea what you do after that. And I almost didn't, I didn't appreciate the profoundness of it until a couple of years later when I'm looking into how do you teach an adult a behavior they've never seen? And when you look at some of the stories that come in with the keto continuum or people on the ketogenic journey, and they have all of the most intense reasons why they need to stay consistently keto. They have cancer, they had cancer. For heaven's sakes, they have a cancer well known to be associated with sugars like breast cancer or testicular cancer. They have cancers where you're like, you need to stay keto from now until the grave. And despite that threat or worry, that's not enough. They don't have the skills in their toolbox to do something different because they've never seen it. And even when you put it in a list and you say, pick something from that list that you think you could do, if they've never seen someone else example a behavior, they don't pick it. It's like their brain reads words, but it doesn't mean anything because it's just an option that's unbelievable. And how could you possibly do that? And when I look at the stories that come in for the keto journey and say, I really need to do this keto thing. I have to do it. I've fallen off twice. What am I doing wrong? I have a really good why. And I'm like, you got to be in a support group. You have to have a place you come where you learn something you've never seen before. And as much as this can be a support group, a Sunday Night Live that you show up in, and every week I hopefully will have a poll that either gives you a place to check in, that you can report your progress to a community of people that show up and do this with you. But I would contend that gets you a few mirror neurons working on your side. And I've given lectures on mirror neurons, and in Keto Continuum, I have a whole chapter on mirror neurons about when you watch a behavior as a teenager, you only have to watch it a couple of times to get that skill set in your toolbox. But when you watch a behavior as an adult, it doesn't take, 15 years to learn the skill because that's what it would have taken as a teenager is you'd have to collect all those years of brain growth. But it does take an emotional connection to the person that you're learning it from. That doesn't mean it needs to be your husband saying words you've never heard, but it does need to be a person that you are in relationship with. And that's what support groups do. So when I put that poll up and said, I do this with my family, I do this with my friends, and there's I don't know, very few that click that button. And then to look of the people that do a keto support group, which means once a week, you host a meeting. And I talk about this in the book about this is not that hard. Yes, it takes a bit of courage, but you show up and you just do what's in that book. And even if nobody shows up, you still keep doing it, and you do it at least and they show up, and you get to say, I'm trying to do keto, and here's what I screwed up. You don't even have to tell them the good parts. You can just say, I'm struggling. This is what I'm doing wrong. But that act of sharing that, truth, or sharing that disappointment with another person changes your brain. It changes something by saying it out loud to someone else. If you're being perfect, you're in a season that I am not in right now. Your life has been lovely and you're just doing it great. Go to a keto support group because they need to see what that looks like too. And I think one of the best journeys I've had is the day I started this keto support group. And I don't charge for it. I do the secret shake into the room is you have to know what a ketone is. So I love it if they've read Any Way You Can. Again, a much lighter read than Keto Continuum. If you're just learning about the keto journey and you're wondering what the heck she's talking about, do the easy book first, which is Any Way You Can. Keto Continuum is a much higher level of education, and it really marks through what I do in my clinic. You'll get to hear about David and David's story, and David provided lots of teachable moments for me to share with you. But even the act of reading that book as you join in relationship with David, you're going to learn things that you didn't know. When people read Any Way You Can, they became in relationship with Grandma Rose, and they learned things they never did before. But that can only take you so far. Either you need to revisit that relationship, and if you haven't noticed, a book is a really one-sided relationship, or you need to share that journey with someone else. And it sounds very kumbaya, and I get lots of that from, court-ordered into a support group kind of people. And the pushback isn't just because it's court-ordered. It's because it's uncomfortable. It's because it's kind of like, I don't know, third grade wonky going into a support group. Yes, you do need support. And it isn't to go into a support group and gossip about the people that aren't there, or even ever talk about anybody that's not there. It is to use the stories in front of you to share with one another where you're at, what you want to work on, and why it's not going so well. And I don't let people be in the support group unless they've attended one once. I've had people drive across the country just to come to one so they could get into it. I don't recommend that. Please don't do that. But in fairness, they were really desperate for somebody to learn from. And what a gift to share their life, share their journey as we continue to teach each week. So yes, Jack shows up and helps me with the technical issues here. And Jack shows up on Friday mornings so that I can hold that support group from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9:15. And what I further have learned is that example of a support group is something I had plans last year to try and use that as a teachable process within the Neurons group. The Neurons group is the private Facebook group that you get if you join Keto Continuum, the support or the online course. That online course is, again, something that we are launching. Just closed the decreased price on it, but you can join it with a higher price and still be part of these live presentations each Friday. Which, what I'm really doing in that Neurons group is I am giving you a place to at least take your support group to a higher level. That the 75%, I'm just going to go back and double check that that's what the poll said. 74% of you said, I don't have a support group. It's me. And I'm like, no. That's not going to play forward very well. Even checking in at a live support group like this will get you a higher presence of retainment, that when you get to the struggle that everybody gets to. I mean, I've been doing this since 2015, and I had a really good rhythm going until bam, I got stuck in Hawaii for 92 days. And then bam, my dad died. And then bam, I just couldn't get my brain to work to finish writing that book. It seemed impossible. And then my mother died. I mean, talk about setbacks that just seem to, I know all the information. I'm writing about it, for heaven's sakes. But to actually do it meant that I had to find a way to gracefully journey back to a part of the road that I could handle right now. And that's what it looks like to be consistent. But I couldn't do that without what happens at that support group, which is watching other people succeed, watching other people fail, being somebody saying, well, somebody fast with me for 36 hours and not wanting to do that at all. No, thank you. I don't want to do that right now. But wanting to do it as a support for them and letting that be the first step back into this rhythm that I know I'll find again. I wish I'd find it a lot quicker, but I'm doing the best I can. And I'm using all the neuroscience that I know about to try and say, just keep ketones flowing through your system, keep going to the support group, and be grace-filled to yourself. I have a couple of stories that will teach a little bit more about where support groups are the best. So I have something I hinted to a couple of weeks ago, that I am filming a documentary that I'll tell you a husband story again. So again, I love my husband. I swear he asked me out for a year before I said yes. And in all that, what was really attractive about him was that I couldn't win every argument. I wouldn't admit it for many years later, but I just couldn't. I liked the back and forth. And when he tells me to do something, I've learned, we've been married 23 years now. So I've learned, just don't let your reflex of growl happen. Just listen to him a little bit. And so as I've been working on that, I'm going through this tough season. I'm at my mother's funeral. I'm not sure what the heck to do with this empty farm in the middle of nowhere with a peacock and a few other major distracting, like, I don't know how to do all this. And we're at this funeral, and it's, a few days later, and my brother's home. He's from Tennessee, and his wife and him have been married for, I think, 20 years, 19 years, something like that. And we're sitting at the table, and he says, we're talking about some of the stuff that I was doing on the channel, and I was trying to finish the book and the setbacks. And my husband knew that I was trying to find someone to be the talent for a documentary to go through the keto continuum. So instead of asking me privately what I thought, he, in front of my sister-in-law, says, you should ask Michelle to be your talent for the documentary for your keto continuum. And it's one of those moments where first of all, I just never thought of it. Sister-in-laws are kind of like a forced relationship, that she's been 1,000 miles away and she loves my brother, like that's odd. But she was struggling. She had tried keto. She'd done it for a while. And like a lot of you, had gotten to a certain level and then crashed, and then tried a little, and she just couldn't lift it. And I said, would you want to? And she said yes. And I think it was a God thing, because it has done immense things for our relationship as far as sister-in-laws go. You share the struggles. That's how you create friendships, is you don't share all the good things, you get to share the struggles. And so as I've looked for that renewed energy that I get when I help someone, she needed the energy. She needed the help of, how do you structure this in a way that keto continuum could help her? And so the other news is that my brother and the sister-in-law have moved back to the family farm. So she moved back in December, because that's when we started filming Keto Continuum, this documentary. And we get to the part about support groups. And it's like, without her eyes moving, her eyes rolled like, oh, a support group, And I go through the part that says, you can't learn this alone. It's a behavior that someone has to example to you. You have to see it. And that mirroring of behavior is something you learn from your parents, and your kids are going to learn from you, and your friends learn from you, but someone has to lead you. And that beginning behavior is what happens at a support group. And you say, but what if everybody at my support group is awful? I'm like, well, then someone's going to be the least awful. And that's where you begin. And then you get to the next step. And then you get to the next step. But doing it together activates the memory in a brain in how an adult brain works. And without a support group, you really can't lift that education to a sustainable level. So the number one reason people fall off the ketogenic diet is they don't have a good why. They don't know what they're doing it for. A little weight loss, maybe some blood pressure meds. And I walk through how to find a better why with the help of a little Simon Sinek approach. But number two is you need a support group. And that's really what either the Neurons page does on Facebook, what this does on Sunday nights, and what I hope that you learn how to do by reading the book Keto Continuum and using the workbook when it's out, which is coming soon. The second story I want to tell you about is what else. So one support group was what's happening with my sister-in-law. Very motivated, wanted to do it, comes away with this kind of eye rolling that support groups aren't necessary, or I can do this myself. Typically, she's a firstborn female as well, so we're like oil and water naturally. But I'll wait for you to see it. It's going to be aired here on YouTube. It will be free, and for those believers out there, I just need you to keep praying for Michelle, because it's a lot to put all your worries and your limitations and your struggles on a video camera, especially when your sister-in-law is out there saying, "Come on, go ahead and just say it, just do it." So praise God that she's just got the courage to keep trying. And really, the story is incredible. She is going to inspire so many people through her struggles and through what happens when you try to take on something that you don't know how to do, that you failed at before. And much like an alcoholic who doesn't know how to really give up alcohol, I don't mean white knuckling at not drinking. I mean truly surrendering that this is not a path for you, that isn't good for what happens afterwards, and that it begins with saying what drives you in the first place. And those conversations are difficult, just putting it mildly. And as you look at the people who transcend through recovery and get rid of habits that they didn't have in their original families of origin, it's because they went to a group and they learned it from people who either suffered a lot more than them or were willing to be in relationship with them as they walked out of a tough chapter. And that support group for Michelle has been, again, it's going to be a great teachable case. But the second story, and I'm just going to wrap it up here so I can get time for your questions. The second story is it's a patient that I saw this week. And I don't take on new patients right now. Again, the book has been very distracting as I figure out how to do the next few months. I have plenty of standing patients. So new patients are a rare thing. But when a family friend calls and says, I need your help, and we can't figure out what's going wrong with my wife. And you walk into a place where I wasn't planning on any keto. I was thinking this was going to be something, actually, I thought it was going to be neurological, like a multiple sclerosis or something that was deteriorating this woman's life. And it took only a short study of the labs over her last 2 years to see she had undiagnosed diabetes in her 70s. And, I said, well, lucky for you, this online course is on sale. I don't mean to, be self-promoting here, but it's the fastest way for you, someone who's sick, someone whose brain is going to need to watch those videos a few times. We can get you better. We can get you feeling much better. But we can't do it until we get the information in your brain. And as I to look at someone who's never heard of the word keto, never understood that carbohydrates in the form of lovely, fruits and vegetables could be harmful. She's lean, she's not overweight, but she's suffering inside her cells. And the consequences have bubbled up to quite a list for her. And as you watch someone who is trying to learn a new skill, oh my goodness, is she trying so hard to learn a new skill? As is her dear husband saying, okay, we got to figure this out. And you say, what's going to help them get past the 6 weeks where they learn this and they're going to follow the rules are going to be great. And in my mind, what I keep thinking of is they're going to need a support group. They're going to need a support group because this is going to be easy when you're sick. and we're going to get you feeling better. And then you're going to say, okay, I'm done with that. What do I do now? And that happens so many times, whether I'm helping somebody with cancer or with MS or with untreated diabetes. The first few steps are easy, but how are you going to parallel a life that continues to use skills and tools that you don't have wired in your brain yet? And not only do they need the help of doing that, but we've got a brain that's not working right. And it can work right again. It's actually a very hopeful story. But I would pray for them too. So as I look at the points I wanted to make tonight, I wanted you to see that support groups are not a little thing. They're actually a huge part of the consistently being keto that I truly can attest to from patients, but also the data and the science on this continues to be a valuable part of renewing physicians' hope that we don't just have to write prescriptions, that we can actually help people get healthier. But it's wonky. It doesn't show up in a prescription said, be on the keto diet, period, go away. Yeah, that's about like telling an alcoholic to quit drinking, would you? That doesn't work. You gotta have the process of changing the way they think. And so as we partner in this group here, which is Sunday nights is one place you can check in. I will do my question is a great way for you to at least get a mini support group. You can take it to the next level by becoming a neuron, and that's what happens if you take the online course. Or you can buy the book Keto Continuum and learn the steps that you can do to set up a support group in your world. And whether that's your sisters and your sisters and brothers, your family, whether that's folks at work, someone in your church or your neighborhood, I don't care who they are. I care that you find a pattern and you set up a process that allows you to teach from one another, or to teach one another and learn from the mistakes and successes that you'll each will have. All right, so that is the lesson for tonight. And I really do, I hope you can hear the passion and how much it means to have a support group. The support group is the reason I wrote the book. I mean, you can't I can teach you the science, but it doesn't really help. So somebody actually, I'm gonna answer questions here. So I'm gonna go back to the live chat over here. Somebody asked, what's a mirror neuron? That's a great question. I have a couple of videos out there for that. There's also a whole chapter in the book about it, but it really is unique astrocytes or cells within the brain that primates and humans, they learn very well by watching a behavior and then copying it. And even without language, I've done several psychology, like training brain neuroscience experiments to say, well, how can you teach, and what do they learn? And it is especially when the brain's process of capturing information heightens to the next level of now they want to use that behavior in their own life. What else was happening at the time that they saw the behavior, whether or not they have a relationship with the behavior or with the person that did the behavior, all seem to come into play for how to teach an adult new behaviors. Now, mirror neurons are on fire when you're a teenager. I mean, you are learning so many things that the more I read about mirror neurons as a teenager, or in teenagers, it makes you want to put your teenagers in a tunnel that says you can only look at the people that are doing everything perfect because you're about to learn all the things we don't want you to learn. But of course, that's not possible. Mirror neurons they capture, they mirror behavior, and then that's how you can apply them in your own journey. So good question. All right. So if you want to post a question, whether it's about support groups or not, I try to answer those in the next, looks like we got about 15 minutes left. So I will take on a couple things. Actually, well, let me just look for a second. So people are asking about, so there's some lab results. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to take on Steve's. Oh boy. Yeah. I don't know if I can take on that, all of it, but I'll tell you why I struggle. Okay. So I'll read the question. Dr. Boz, my LDL is 2,055. Yeah, like 2,055. This completely freaked out my doc. She says it's not the best diet for someone who has a coronary artery calcium score over 600. So coronary calcium score is the one that just tells you how calcified is that coronary artery. The best way to summarize CAC, I teach my patients, it's like looking backwards on what's been happening with your coronary arteries for like the last 10 years. It's not a snapshot of 2 or 3 weeks. It's a snapshot of a significant time. Coronary artery calcium scores can be followed year after year to see if you're growing more calcium or if it's stabilized, whether it goes down or not. Oh, so this is particle size, actually. My small particle, he went on to say, my small LDL particle is over 1,000. So I was reading it, actually, I'm sorry, I was reading it just as LDL, just as a screening cholesterol. So his LDL particle is 2,055, which still isn't great. And his one is 1,012. So still, both of them very high. And he wants to know what to do. And I'll tell you that I write about this a little bit in the book, that you need a lipidologist. It's not that the answer is in where you've been and where you're going. And especially when primary care, which is what I am, but primary care that hasn't studied the process of coronary arteries and cholesterol and keto. Particle size is very important. The smaller the particle size in those LDL, the more the more they're likely they are to cause a heart attack. The number is important. It's not none, but it also is where are you at in the process of your ketogenic journey? When people just start on the ketogenic diet, I tell them, do not look for 6 months. 6 months gives you time to get through those 6 weeks and stay consistently keto. Once you're consistently eating a diet that you can stick to, now let me judge what's going on in your cholesterol. We know that coronary disease is very much, especially the ones that cause the sudden cardiac death. They are very related to the inflammatory processes of high insulin. And what is the number one thing that a ketogenic diet does is it lowers insulin. Once you get the insulin lowered, so you get a Dr. Boz ratio at least under 100 every day, hopefully under 80 every day. And if you hang out there for, at least 4 months, now you can be judged. Like, okay, now what? And that's where you need a lipidologist to say, okay, we're going to talk about advanced cholesterol processing, how long it stays in circulation, how well the receptors are listening, and whether or not they're upregulated or downregulated, and how much your liver is making new cholesterol and synthesizing even more cholesterol. That process is not a one-tag answer. So I would Google lipidologist in your area, and then be sure you're consistently keto. That's the key. Going on and off of it, you're just creating a soupy mess for us to try and figure out. So help out your doctors a little bit there. All right. So I'm going to look here, a couple of years. Hang tight just a little bit. I'm going to take on a question from Priscilla. So she says, my blood glucose is 83. My ketones are 2.0, which gives me a Dr. Boz ratio of 41.5. Should I break my fast? How do I know when? So first of all, you're doing a great job of checking. The numbers are great. Those are nice numbers. You can't get a ketone of 2.0 in the first you can get it in the first few days of keto, but if you're consistently keto and this is something you're working through to say, okay, now I've fasted, and I want to know when I could break my fast. There's a few things that I like folks to do, especially if they're new into the fasting process. Again, I'm going to show one thing over here. Let's see here. So if you look at this, this is the keto continuum. This is what I teach in that book. And so when Priscilla writes in and says, yep, I have a Dr. Boz ratio. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Oopsie day. There we go. I have a Dr. Boz ratio in the 40s. Should I break my fast? What I would be curious about is how long did it take her to get to that number? And if she's been like at a number 6, which is advanced 16-8. For those of you that have been watching the show a while, you know that means that the morning drink is cleaned up to have none of the fatty stuff that lots of keto drinks have in them. You should keep those in your keto drinks for the first phase, but when you get to number 6, we're gonna talk about getting those out. As you look at, if she hangs out at advanced 16-8 and she has made it, I don't know, let's say 36 hours, and she's got a Dr. Boz ratio of 41 with a blood glucose of 83. Now, this is the key thing to her question. The 83 blood glucose, it says that your liver isn't empty yet. Now, there's a couple of things. This is happening in the evening, so I'm guessing you're in my part of the world, meaning maybe your hour is off an hour or so, but it's not off 12 hours. It's not morning there. If your morning numbers were 83 and 2.0, that's during a time of a cortisol surge. So that's your circadian rhythm kind of stimulating your liver to give your body a little more glucose. But as your day goes down away from that cortisol surge, the sugar should get lower. So to have an 83 in the evening, of a blood sugar of 83 in the evening, it says, yeah, you've probably got quite a bit of storage still left in your liver, which is called glycogen, and glycogen is there for fasting times. But what I find in most of the patients that do a 36-hour fast, or one of my favorite challenges for people is to do 8 weeks of a 72-hour fast. What I really care to look at when I'm studying their charts is how low does their blood sugar get during those 72 hours. And the first couple of weeks, I mean, it'll take 48, 72 hours to get into empty glycogen storage, which is closer to 65. I do a really good job of answering all of this in that final video in that online course, which is an hour long. But it talks about, I'm going to guess that Priscilla is keto adapted. Obviously, she's got 2.0 and a ratio of 41. Ketones of 2.0 with a Dr. Boz ratio of 41. And what that really suggests is if you're keto adapted, you hold a very valuable tool in your chemistry set. And I want you igniting that over and over and over again to surge your body's response to ketosis. Without that keto chemistry as your baseline, you don't get that privilege. And again, I go through this very well, and I have slides, and I make it. I love that topic. But it shows that if you feel good and you're still fasting, don't let the numbers be the guide to stopping you. And of course, this is short of 72 hours. Once you get to 72 hours, the stuff after that, especially going 5, 6, 7, 8 days, I don't find that patients get the return on their investment for fasting. So somewhere within those first, 72 to 78 hours of fasting, find a time where either you feel like it's time to eat, they get a little yucky feeling. The second rule I think of is I would be fasting to get your glucose closer to that 65. That would be another rule. And then I would never break your fast at 7 o'clock at night if you've been fasting. I would break it earlier in the day because you're going to have a surge of, if you've not broken a fast of more than 36 hours, you get a lot of energy. And so you're going to get a whole bunch of energy, and then you're going to go to bed. So I'd push till tomorrow morning if you feel good. That's the short answer. There's a whole bunch of chemistry behind there that I hope you understand. And if you don't, and you're part of the neurons group, go back and watch that final video because I'm talking about you in that video. All right, well, I'm going to check my numbers one more time and call it a night, see where I'm at. Just want to make sure that if you didn't like this video, please still push the like button. The like button does things for the channel that I have not been very good about asking for, but it really does change the metrics. Kind of like leaving a book review is important for books. It's really important to click the like button on videos. And these rules seem silly until you try to study the metrics behind the scenes. You're like, why is that video not doing very well? And then I go back and listen and say, not once did I ask you to like it. All right, just checking my blood here. So again, here's the ketones. And here is the glucose. And here's the empty drink for the So again, went from 0.3 to 0.8, and then glucose went down to 95. Again, this isn't as comparable in the previous weeks because I ate about an hour, about 40 minutes before the show started. So my ketones were going to be low anyway, but they're higher. They did raise. And again, that's about 40 minutes after I started drinking, but I drank most of it when I started answering the questions. I didn't think to drink of it much. All right, everybody, that's a wrap for tonight's show. I do appreciate your attention, and I look forward to reading every single one of your reviews for Keto Continuum. And if you haven't left one for any way you can, I'll check in next week to see if we have more reviews than Ken Berry. Signing off, everybody. I'm Dr. Boz, improving your health one ketone at a time.